Hi. My name is Rachel, I'm 42 years old, and I've never thought I'd be the kind of person writing out my life on the internet for strangers to dissect. But here I am. And maybe that should already tell you how twisted this whole thing has been. I want to start with this. Betrayal doesn't always come from the person sleeping next to you. Sometimes it slithers in through the people you let into your home, the ones you think are family, the ones you trust with your secrets. For me, that snake was my wife's best friend. When you've been married for 12 years, you learn the rhythm of your partner's moods. The way her laughter sounds when it's genuine versus when it's just polite. The way her eyes linger on you when she's proud, or the sharpness in her voice when she's tired. I thought I knew all of it. That's why, when she started pulling away, I felt it in my bones before I saw it in her actions. Her name was Melissa. My wife. My everything. And her best friend, God, even saying her name feels dirty now, was Tara. Tara had been around since college, long before I came into the picture. Melissa always described her as her soul sister. And me. I trusted her. I really did. It started with little things. Melissa coming home from work quieter than usual. The way she'd scroll through her phone late at night, lips pressed together, eyes hard. I'd reach out, touch her arm, and she'd flinch, pulling away as if my touch burned. At first, I thought it was stress. She'd been promoted recently, and the workload was crushing. I cooked more dinners, took over the chores, gave her space. I thought that was what love meant, easing the weight off her shoulders. But then, one night, I caught her looking at me like I was a stranger. Melissa, I asked softly, sitting on the edge of the bed. What's going on with us? Her jaw tightened. She set her phone down, face turned away. Don't, she said. Just that one word, sharp enough to cut me. I swallowed hard. Don't what? She finally looked at me then, her eyes glassy, rimmed with red like she'd been crying. Don't lie to me, she whispered, and my world tilted. You have to understand, I wasn't lying. I wasn't cheating. I wasn't doing anything. Melissa, what are you talking about? I stammered, her arms wrapped around her chest like she was holding herself together. Tara told me everything. My stomach dropped. Tara? What did she say? Melissa's lips trembled, her voice breaking. That you've been seeing someone. That you, God, Rachel, how could you? The room spun. My ears rang. That's not true. None of it. You know me better than that. But her eyes said she didn't. The fight that followed was the ugliest we'd ever had. I shouted until my throat was raw, swearing up and down that Tara was lying. Melissa cried, screamed, threw accusations at me I never thought I'd hear from her lips. Don't make me look like a fool, she yelled, tears streaking down her cheeks. You are a fool if you believe her over me. I shot back before I could stop myself. The silence that followed was worse than the yelling. She stared at me, face pale, lips trembling. And then she whispered the words that broke me. I can't do this anymore. 2 days later, she packed her bags. I begged. I pleaded. I told her I'd do anything, therapy, time apart, whatever she needed. But she wouldn't listen. She was convinced. Convinced that her best friend, the one who had been by her side through every heartbreak before me, was telling the truth, and me? I was nothing but the villain in her story. When she walked out of that door, suitcase in hand, I felt like the air had been punched out of my lungs. The weeks after were hell. I'd wake up reaching for her side of the bed, only to find it cold and empty. I'd cook too much dinner and stare at the second plate until it went cold. Every corner of the house smelled like her, every song on the radio felt like it was mocking me, and the worst part? Tara had the audacity to check in on me. She'd call, feigning concern, asking how I was holding up. I wanted to scream at her, to demand why she'd lied, why she'd ruined everything. But I didn't. Because I couldn't prove anything. It was just my word against hers. Looking back now, I realize that was the lowest point of my life. I lost weight. I stopped sleeping. My friends tried to drag me out, but I was a ghost, a shadow of myself, and all the while, Melissa was out there, probably clinging to Tara's shoulder, believing every poisonous word that Snake whispered. I thought I'd never recover, but life has a funny way of shifting. Because the truth always finds a way out, and when it did, it changed everything. It started with a call I never expected. I was sitting at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of cold coffee I hadn't touched in hours, when my phone lit up. The name flashing on the screen made my heart stop. Melissa. I froze. My fingers hovered over the green button. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let her stay gone, to accept the fact that she had chosen someone else's story over me, but another part, a desperate, hungry part, needed to hear her voice. I pressed accept. Hello? My voice was cautious, brittle. Rachel, we need to talk, she said, her voice tight, heavy. Like she was holding something back, something dangerous. I didn't know what to say. About what? There was silence. Then, finally, about Tara. About everything. That was the first crack in the wall she had built between us. I could hear the panic in her voice before she even spoke the words I'd been waiting to hear for months. She lied, Melissa admitted, almost whispering. All of it. Every single thing she told me, it was a lie. My chest tightened, and part of me wanted to scream with relief. But I didn't. I stayed quiet, letting her stumble over her confession. I don't know why I believed her, Melissa continued, voice trembling. I thought you would never do that to me. But she convinced me. I didn't even question it. Her words were like fire hitting ice. Relief and anger mixed in a way that made my teeth grit. I'd waited for this moment for months, imagining it over and over. And now it was here, but it wasn't enough. I wanted to say something clever, something cutting, but the words froze in my throat. So I stayed quiet and let the silence do the work. Finally, Melissa broke it herself. I want to fix this. I want to come back. There it was. The line I never wanted to hear. Melissa, my voice was calm, but my hands shook. Do you understand what you're asking? That you left me. That you walked out on everything we built, because of her lies. Yes, she whispered, almost ashamed. I was scared. And I was hurt. But I know now that I was wrong. Please, can we? I cut her off. No, I didn't even have to think about it. The word slipped out, simple and final. Excuse me, she said, panic creeping in. No. It's too late, I said, my voice steadier now than it had been in months. You can't just waltz back in after destroying everything. You made your choice. And I paused, letting the weight settle. I made mine. Melissa was silent on the line. I imagined her standing there, pale, tears threatening again, realizing for the first time that the fantasy of coming back wasn't going to happen. And for the first time in months, I felt a strange, foreign emotion rising inside me, freedom, because all this time, while she clung to a lie, I'd been trapped. Trapped in grief, in betrayal, in the suffocating absence of someone I loved and trusted. Now, the trap was opened and I started paying attention to things I had ignored during the haze of heartbreak. Small things, like how beautiful the mornings were when I woke up alone. How quiet the house felt, how I could cook without compromise, how I could drink my coffee hot and sip it slowly instead of gulping it down while listening for the sound of her keys in the door. And then, I noticed her. No, not Melissa. Someone else. Her name was Anna. I met her at a friend's dinner party, months after Melissa left. She had a quick smile, sharp wit, and a laugh that made me feel like I could breathe again. A tea first, I resisted. I wasn't ready. I didn't want to replace Melissa, I wanted closure. But Anna had a way of appearing when I needed her most, and I realized that maybe, just maybe, I could let someone new into my life. Meanwhile, the fallout of Tara's lies was starting to come back around. Mutual friends had started questioning the story Melissa had been fed. The more they asked, the more Tara's lies unraveled. Texts she'd sent, half-truths, exaggerations, it was all coming to light. Melissa tried to confront her, but Tara played the victim, twisting the narrative once again. I watched from the sidelines, quietly satisfied, while Melissa floundered in the consequences of believing a snake over the man she loved. One night, I ran into Melissa at a local coffee shop. She froze when she saw me, and I swear I could see all the things she wanted to say: apologies, please, explanations, trapped behind her lips. I smiled at her. Calm. Controlled. Not bitter, not angry, just free. She swallowed hard. Rachel, Melissa, I said, taking a slow sip of my latte. I hope you're doing okay. Really? I do. Her eyes glistened. I don't know. I messed up. I shook my head, smiling softly. You did. But I didn't. And that makes all the difference. And just like that, I walked away. For the first time since she left, I felt like myself again, Not the Rachel clinging to a broken marriage. Not the Rachel drowning in betrayal and lies. But Rachel, the one who could move on, who could finally live for herself, and maybe, just maybe, that was the sweetest revenge of all. After the coffee shop encounter with Melissa, something inside me shifted. I realized that the life I had lost wasn't something I needed to mourn anymore, it was something I had to build anew. For months, I'd been living in the shadow of betrayal, replaying every fight, every accusation, every tear. But now, that shadow was fading. And in its place, a fire. I started small, new routines. Early mornings with a run through the park while the city was still quiet. Taking cooking classes I had always joked about but never tried. I even started writing again, journaling every thought, every frustration, every little victory. It was like reclaiming pieces of myself I hadn't realized were missing, and through it all, Anna was there not as a replacement, but as a companion who reminded me what it felt like to be happy again. She had a sharp mind and a sense of humor that could slice through any lingering pain. And, God, did she make me laugh. But life wasn't just about healing, it was also about payback. I didn't want to stoop to Melissa's level. She didn't deserve my anger. No, the one who had to pay was Tara, the architect of my suffering. She had moved into Melissa's life completely, thinking she had secured her victory. But people talk. Mutual friends began sharing details, hinting at inconsistencies in Tara's stories. And I just knew, that her web of lies would unravel if I nudged it. It started with small things. A casually shared message here, a question asked just loudly enough for the wrong person to hear there. I never lied. I never made accusations. I just pointed out the truth subtly. Isn't it strange that Tara's story doesn't match the text she sent you, Melissa? I asked once, sipping coffee innocently. Melissa's face tightened. I could see her wanting to argue, wanting to defend her best friend, but she couldn't. Not now. The truth was creeping in, little by little, and it was unstoppable. Watching Tara squirm from a distance was intoxicating. She would try to talk her way out of it, sending passive-aggressive messages, pretending to be innocent. But the cracks were showing. Her reputation among our mutual friends began to falter. People started questioning her loyalty, her honesty. And I remained calm, smiling, living my life. That was the sweetest part. My happiness was the real revenge. Meanwhile, Melissa, she was floundering. She came to me once, tears brimming, asking for help, for guidance, for a second chance. And for the first time, I looked at her, not with anger, not with longing, but with clarity. Melissa, I said, voice gentle but firm, you can't undo what happened. You chose to believe a lie over us. And Tara, she made sure of that. You need to learn to live with your choices. Her face fell. And I walked away, leaving her to confront the consequences of her blind trust. Life, I realized, wasn't about punishment. It was about reclaiming what had been taken from me. Peace, joy, control. I started traveling, seeing places I'd dreamed about but postponed because of family obligations, work, and a marriage that was crumbling. I met new people, built new friendships, and explored parts of myself that had been dormant. And Anna, well, she became my anchor. Not my savior, not my replacement, but someone who celebrated every small victory with me, laughed at my dumb jokes, and reminded me that life could still be beautiful. And then came the final act of subtle revenge. Tara's lies, carefully woven to hurt me, had finally come undone. Mutual friends confronted her, the lies exposed for everyone to see. Her career in the social circle we all shared began to crumble, and her so-called perfect friendship with Melissa dissolved under the weight of the truth. She tried to contact me once. I didn't answer. Twice. Still nothing. The truth was simple. I didn't need to respond. My life had moved on. I was thriving. I was happy. She had nothing left to manipulate or destroy, and that, more than anything, was my victory. Sitting in my apartment one evening, watching the city lights glitter against the dark sky, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't thought possible. I had lost someone I loved. I had been betrayed by someone I trusted. And I had survived. Not just survived, I had triumphed. I raised my glass to the empty room. To the lies that tried to break me, I whispered. And to the truth that set me free. And for the first time in years, I smiled. The morning sunlight filtered through my apartment window, spilling across the wooden floor in warm, golden streaks. I had never noticed how beautiful a quiet morning could feel until I could actually enjoy it. I stretched, feeling the tightness in my shoulders from months, no, years, of stress and heartbreak. The apartment smelled faintly of fresh coffee and flowers I had bought the day before, just because I could. Life had changed. And not slowly, it had transformed in ways I hadn't dared to imagine when Melissa left, when Tara lied, when I felt like the world had turned against me. The first part of that transformation had been survival. I had to survive the betrayal, the heartbreak, the utter humiliation of being abandoned because someone else's poison had seeped into my marriage. Then came rebuilding. I redecorated the apartment, painted the walls in colors that made me happy, not what someone else would have chosen. I enrolled in photography classes I had always joked about but never pursued. I went on trips to places I'd dreamed about for decades. Every small step was a reclaiming of the life I thought I had lost, and slowly, I started to breathe again. Anna was there through all of it, not as a crutch, not as a replacement for what I had lost, but as a companion, a mirror to my joy, a partner in rediscovery. She had a way of noticing the small details, the little triumphs, and celebrating them with me. Her laugh, genuine and unrestrained, filled the spaces Melissa's absence had left, and for the first time in years, I wasn't defined by loss. I wasn't defined by betrayal. I was defined by myself. Then came the final reckoning with Tara. I had resisted the urge to seek revenge at first. But watching her carefully constructed lie crumble under its own weight, I realized something important. Revenge didn't need my hand to make it perfect. Truth had a way of sneaking out, subtle, unstoppable, exposing the liar for who she really was. Mutual friends, even some of Melissa's colleagues, had started questioning Tara. Texts were shared, messages revealed. The lies she had woven were laid bare. One day, she tried to reach me. I saw her name flash across my phone. But I didn't answer. I didn't even look back. Her power over my life had vanished months ago. By the time she tried to claw back influence, I had already moved on. Melissa, too, had reached a final understanding, though not with me. She had lost Tara's trust when the lies unraveled, and she had realized the consequences of blind belief. I ran into her once at a gallery exhibition. Her face fell when she saw me. She wanted to apologize, to explain, to beg for the life we had destroyed together. I smiled gently, calm, unshaken. Melissa, I said softly, you have to live with the choices you made. I hope you find peace, truly. But my life is no longer here. She looked like she wanted to say more, but the words got stuck. I left her standing there, caught between regret and reality. And I didn't look back. That evening, I walked through the city streets with Anna at my side. The sun dipped below the horizon, turning the sky into a riot of pinks and purples. I realized I hadn't felt fear in months. I hadn't felt the weight of betrayal pressing down. I hadn't felt the suffocating need to prove myself to anyone. I felt free, truly free. I stopped on a bridge overlooking the river, watching the water ripple in the fading light. Anna reached for my hand, squeezing it gently. Rachel, she said, you're glowing. You're alive. I laughed softly. I am. I finally am. And in that moment, I knew something important. Revenge isn't always about hurting someone else. Sometimes, it's about surviving, thriving, and showing the world and yourself that you can rise above anything. Melissa had left, Tara had lied, and the world had tried to break me. But I had emerged stronger, wiser, unshakable. I turned to Anna, smiling wide, and felt the thrill of life in every beat of my heart. Here's to the truth, I whispered. And to living freely, finally. The river glimmered beneath the bridge, the city alive around us, and I knew, this was only the beginning.